If you're looking to create, grow, and sustain your wealth, download and subscribe to the Pain Points of Wealth podcast at BeBullish.com with Bob, Ryan, and Chris Payne. It's your podcast for market insights, money tips, and real talk on the economy. Download and subscribe at BeBullish.com. The More Money Show with Steve Moore on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Well, there it is, folks. There is the More Money Hotline. We skipped that at the top of the hour, and that's the sign that gets my juices flowing, because we are about making more money. That's why we call it the More Money Show. And so thank you all so much for joining again this afternoon. So I want to get right into it with my next two guests. Two people are good friends, but two of the smartest people I know about politics and feeling the pulse of the American people. I'm talking about Tom Del Beccarro, who was the former Republican chair of the Republican Party in the state of California. Talk about tough jobs. That must have been a tough one, Tom, but you did a great job there. And then Jon McLaughlin, who's one of the top pollsters in the United States and certainly knows what's going on in New York. And boy, we're all kind of feeling very worried about what is happening in the city of New York and the state of New York with the election return. So, gentlemen, thanks for joining. Let's get right into it. Maybe I'll start with you, John. What is your just quick takeaway? It's been 2 weeks since the election. Republicans took a drubbing in New Jersey and New York. Why?
Well, the Trump voters stayed home. I mean, I've worked for the president I've advised him since 2011. So 2015, 2016. At one point in 2016, he said to me, all these polls have us losing to Hillary. How are we going to win? And it was the summer. And I said, he wasn't president then. He said, Mr. Trump. I said, what we're going to do is we're going to max out the anti-Hillary vote. We are then going to siphon up libertarians from Gary Johnson because they don't like Hillary either. And we will bring out new voters, these working class voters who didn't vote for Mitt Romney, who basically were living paycheck to paycheck, who in effect are looking for, he became their blue collar billionaire hero because he would fight for them, and you would have this heartland coalition of Rust Belt, Sun Belt voters. And they came out, and we brought them out.
It worked.
It worked, and we showed it worked in Nassau County this year, where Nassau County is bigger than 8 states. It's a huge county, population-wise. And Bruce Blakeman, the county executive out there, beat his Democratic opponent by 12 points in a county that's an 8-point Democrat county. And we went right down the ticket. Bruce, DA, town supervisors, they won everything down to the city level.
Why? But why would that county go so Republican, and yet New York City, went so Democratic?
Well, first of all, when we polled when we did our polling, Hochul had a 61 disapprove, and Mondami at the end in October had a 69 unfavorable. But Bruce Blakeman was running on the fact that he cut taxes for 4 years. He hired 300 new police and became the safest county in America. And they cooperated with ICE, deported criminal illegals. He also banned transgender men from playing girls' sports on county properties. I mean, he stuck to the issues, and the voters responded. And what you need is, look at New Jersey, 600,000 Trump voters. We had almost 2 million votes there, about 2 million votes. We only lost by 6 points. In an odd year election, when the turnout goes down, if you'd gotten more Trump voters out than Harris voters, the Republican could have won. No, instead, what happened is, it was 5-4 Harris voters, and the Republican only got 1.4 million. So that's not enough to win.
Okay,
we need to get Trump voters out.
So I get that. So here's the problem, John, and Tom, I want to get to you in a minute, but John, we have a midterm coming up, which is going to be a lot more important than this off-year election. And are we going to face the same problem where the Trump voters don't turn out? Because as I look at it, going all the way back to, when Trump was first elected, Trump is a turnout machine for conservatives and libertarians and free market people and Republicans. He turns them out like nothing I've ever seen. But the pattern has been, John, that when they have the off-year elections, when he's not on the ticket, a lot of those voters stay home. And is that going to happen in 2026?
Well, it shouldn't happen, but I don't know who's running these other campaigns, but they need to figure out they need to follow that example of what we just did for Bruce, where we went after, we knew we had a database of all the Trump voters who came out in 2024 that didn't vote in the odd years. We brought them out. You can do the same thing in the midterms. So whomever these strategists are in the other states, they better figure out how to get the Trump voters out, because we had 77 million people go vote. The midterm election, the turnout will be 112, 118 million. That's the last two midterms. Big drop from 156. You win by getting more of yours out than theirs out. And
okay, so let me turn that over now to Tom Del Beccarro. By the way, Tom's latest book, which is a really fantastic book called The Lessons of the American Civilization. I love that book, Tom. But what are your thoughts about this, Tom? I mean, you've followed politics, obviously on both coasts, on the East Coast and the West Coast. But I am worried that these Trump voters, won't turn out unless Trump is on the ticket.
Yeah, that is a very serious issue for Republicans. He has a very unique appeal and an ability for voters to be loyal to him, which Republicans are mistaken if they think it's just going to be handed off to anyone else. And so that's why I'm listening so intently right now to John on this particular issue. Midterms, of course, historically, the party in the White House is not as motivated as the party outside. But I also have studied the midterms for decades and find that the party in the White House tends not to run on an agenda. The party outside the White House approaches the midterms in two ways. It says, look at all the problems and elect us and we'll do these couple of things.
All right, Tom, hold that thought. We'll be right back, folks. This is the More Money Show. Welcome back, folks. This is the More Money Show. Thanks so much for joining. This is the Red Apple Audio Network. Appreciate you joining on a pretty nice fall afternoon. So I'm talking to Tom Del Beccarro, who was the former head of the Republican Party in California, and Jon McLaughlin, one of the top pollsters in the country. Tom, I apologize. I had to cut you off. We had a hard break there. But I want to ask you about sort of the economics of what is going on. You have a lot of young people that are saying in the polls that they're distraught about the condition of the economy. They don't think they're the job opportunities there once were. They're worried about inflation, the cost of things. And yet, when you and I entered the workforce, things were a hell of a lot worse than they are today. What is going on with this younger generation?
Well, for one thing, they come out of a schooling system that is so negative towards capitalism, and then they post about it on their $1,200 phone while they're sipping their $7 coffee.
Right.
And America doesn't realize the level of things that are given to them for virtually nothing. So, look, as I talk about in my book, The Lessons of the American Civilization, very rich societies cast off children who don't appreciate what it is, and then compare it to the rest of the world. We see this Gallup poll that says 15 to 44-year-old women say 20% of them say they want to, or 40% say they want to leave the country. So part of this has to do with the education system, but at the end of the day, the government regulations on housing have pushed housing costs up so significantly that they are frustrated. And so there are underlying things going on, which is so difficult for Trump in a short period of time to undo. But at the end of the day, I want to harken back to the last discussion. Next year, Republicans have to have an agenda saying in the next 2 years, here's what we're going to do for the economy. They can't just go back. I expect the economy to be good next year. I expect the Republicans to have a good chance, but they can't sit on their laurels. They need an agenda, and they have to do exactly what John said, which is contact Trump voters and give them a reason to vote.
So, John, that's a good entree to Jon. Jon McLaughlin, by the way, one of the top pollsters in the country, and certainly knows about what's going on in what happened with these most recent elections. So, John, just picking up on what Tom was talking about, Republicans are losing young voters, but not just Republicans. I mean, the country is losing young voters. They feel forlorn. They're kind of depressed. They're not getting married. They're not moving into a house. They're not, they don't seem to have the love for America that most of us do. What the hell is going on there?
Well, Tom's right. They need an agenda. And
right.
we had an agenda last year with President Trump when we worked out the platform. Newt Gingrich did a lot of work on it. Vince Ayles, who's President Trump's domestic advisor in the White House, was brilliant with it. And the president himself developed that agenda. Now, Trump won't be on the ballot. He said, but he's talked about having a convention, which I've encouraged. Would be great to have a convention, a midterm election convention, but there's no sense having a convention unless you have a platform. And he needs to get the Senate and the House Republicans to agree on a platform that's his platform and take up things like your committee to unleash prosperity, Steve, put out the fact that these younger voters aren't able to buy homes until they come into their 40s. And a lot of that, by the way, the socialism creep is when you don't own things and all of a sudden you start taking things from other people. So the biggest obstacle to them owning a home is the interest rate on the mortgage. Because compared to Trump's first term, it's double because the interest rates are higher. And I think what you're starting to see where the market flattened out this week, two things became apparent. One is we could lose the midterms. And the second thing is they're talking about the Fed not lowering interest rates anymore. In our last poll, we asked at the end of October, we asked if they should fire Jerome Powell. And 59% of all voters to 24 said they should. That's
wait, hold on, John. How many people even know who Jerome Powell is?
He had a 33-30 favorable, unfavorable. So 2/3 of the American public voters know who he is. And they favor Trump firing him to lower interest rates because right now he's the guy putting the sand in the engine on the tax cuts. Yeah. So Trump needs to have an opponent, needs to run a campaign. I think the president ought to run a campaign to fire this guy sooner than May when his term comes up because he is purposely undermining the Trump recovery. And you've talked about it. A lot of our friends, but you guys are, you're smart, you're intellectual, you're playing by the rules. Our opponents don't play by the rules. They are basically influencing the Fed not to lower interest rates, to hurt the recovery, to hurt us to win the midterm elections. Just like this shutdown that the Democrats engineered, they didn't care how much pain they put on the country. It's to hurt Trump and the Republicans in the midterms. We need to play hard and have an agenda, like Tom says.
So here's what is sort of perplexing to me, Tom, and I'll throw this over to you as well, John, but I want Tom to go first on this one, is the economy is good. We have a good economy right now. We have low inflation. It's 2.8, 2.9%. It's not exactly where we want it to be, but that's pretty low. We've got the low gas prices, $2.89 a gallon in most places in the United States. We got a record booming stock market. The job market is slowing down a little bit, but there's still a lot of jobs out there. We've got this investment flowing into the country. In other words, this is a good economy. It's not a bad economy. And yet people are not voting as if and then also in the polls, they're not feeling the love.
Yeah. Well, look, keep in mind in this, what I call the divided era, half the country hears a economy or hears about an economy that doesn't exist to them because that's the way CNN and NBC and CBS report it. And so we live in this dichotomy, which is problematic. Also, a lot of we are adjusting the economy. We're getting off government hiring as the government spending as pushing the economy and causing inflation. Now we're privatizing it, as Scott has talked about. But they focus on things which CNN and half the country focuses on because that's what they're delivered. A year from now, it'll be different. 6 months from now, CNN won't be able to deny some of these things. But the delay in putting the tax cut and the like, that delay of 6 months, look, they could have passed that tax bill on February 15th if they really wanted to. That delay has hurt them politically. So there is this delay in the good things that are coming, but nevertheless, they have to do the constant campaign. Keep this in mind. The Democrat voter is far more loyal, in my view, as someone who has to get out the vote for campaigns like I tried to on Prop 50.
Right.
The Democrat voter is more loyal to coming out on a constant basis. The Republican voter isn't as loyal.
That's
and
true.
We saw that last
Well, that's because, Tom, that's because they're the party of government and we're not the party of government. So we just want to get on with our lives. We want the government to stay out. For them, it's like their livelihoods. They have to have the Democrats win. But John, what do you think about that?
I think Tom's right. We got to work hard and have a campaign. And I mean, Trump's job approval peaked on Election Day last year, and his favorability and his popular vote, which was perfect for the campaign, but we had a campaign driving that. Right now, as Tom says, we got 4 out of 10 voters. They pay attention to the conservative media. 4 out of 10 pay attention to the liberal media. The other ones in the middle you got to get to but you need a campaign to get to them. And Trump, we did it in the campaign because we would hold the rallies. He's in Washington. He's running a government. He's building up a great 300-day record of success, but we're not amplifying it because we don't have a campaign that is going. We have to run over the liberal legacy media. Fortunately, here you're on ABC Radio, thanks to John Catsimatidis. He's got free speech operating, and we can get out the facts. But they don't have that on CNN. They don't have that on MSNBC.
Well,
and we have to fight through it.
Even this, station, which I've been so privileged for the last 5 years to have the More Money show, and we're on throughout the country. But in New York, our ABC affiliate, we know the demographics of the listenership of this show. It's older people. We're not. We'd like to attract more young people to the show, but mostly it's people in the 50s, 60s, 70s who are listening to this. So how do we, I don't know. I'm just perplexed about how we reach
Steve,
these young
people. You mentioned something very important, that young people get their news on social media in their hand. They don't get it on television or radio like the older generation. So you have to do digital campaigning, and you have to engage them. I want the Republicans once and for all to stop running campaigns from Washington and going out to the states and holding events there like a convention that can't be avoided. In order to get in the news, you got to make news.
Okay.
And so they have to go
Got it. So I want to ask you, we got literally 30 seconds left. I'm going to put you both on the spot because you're two of the smartest political people I know. Who will be the Democratic nominee for president in 2028? And Tom, I'll start with you and then I'll go with John.
I think if I make a bet today, it would be Gavin Newsom, but that's just the way it is.
Yep. I think you're probably right. What do you think, John?
In our national polls that we have, Newsom's leading now against Kamala Harris by a little bit, but I would watch for somebody else to come through because the demographics on their side favor another more Obama-like, more even more left of center radical than Newsom. So you could have somebody new that
they can't help themselves. They just cannot help themselves, right? I mean, maybe it's going to be
on your show right now. Kamala's not running for president. I'm going to say it right now.
I wish she were. All right, guys, we got to wrap it up. Thank you so much, Jon McLaughlin, best pollster in the country. Tom Del Beccarro, one of the top political commentators in the country. This is the More Money Show, and we will be right back.
Thanks for listening to More Money with Steve Moore. You can hear More Money with Steve Moore Saturday afternoons at 1. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder,
what the heck is going on here?
If you're you're looking to create, grow, and sustain your wealth, download and subscribe to the Pain Points of Wealth podcast at BeBullish.com with Bob, Ryan, and Chris Payne. It's your podcast for market insights, money tips, and real talk on the economy. Download and subscribe at BeBullish.com.